Editing Amp here, editing the Pillion video that you are currently watching. There's a movie screening of Pillion happening here in the Castro in San Francisco. What I did not expect to get an email from. A24 just emailed me saying, hey, would you like to be on the red carpet asking questions of the actors and some of the other people that worked on the movie? So like this video's movie review, it's excursion, it's vlog, it's interview, and I hope you're enjoying. You guys are getting fed today. Let's go.
Hello and welcome back to What's the Safeword? I'm Amp.
I'm Mr. Christopher.
And today
we are talking about motorcycles.
We are covering probably one of the most requested videos and movie reviews, a little BDSM movie called Pillion. And boy, do we have some opinion. Now, it was my birthday over the weekend, and one of the things I really wanted to do was watch Pillion with a group of friends.
So if you haven't seen it, you might want to tune us out.
So what is Pillion? It is a BDSM and leather biker film that takes place in the UK. So today's video is going to be us very much going through and spoiling the entire movie, but telling you guys what we thought as Kinksters in the community. And we've seen tons of BDSM films over the years, from The Secretary to 50 Shades of Grey, 9.5 Weeks, Exit to Eden. But Pillion is a very different film that takes on a much more modern case of BDSM meet cutes, meet kink boot. And seeing as this is a very complicated breakdown, I might be jumping in here as editing amp every once in a while to add a few more points or behind the scenes or a little bit of lore that we learned directly from the cast and crew from when we were on the red carpet. So if you want to join me and Daddy on our ride and be our Pillion, hop on and get ready. But to be clear,
if you don't want anything spoiled, and we'll try not to be explicit about specific scenes, but we're going to talk about our overall feelings of it.
And the goods and the bads. And the goods and the bads cannot be talked about without talking about scenes within the movie.
Yeah.
So we're going to first talk about what Pillion is, the characters, kind of the general scenes that make up the roller coasters, like ups and downs, you know, the big plot points. And then I'd love to talk about like what we liked about the movie and what we didn't like.
Yeah.
So like some positives first, because I'm betting there's going to be a lot more critical negatives in our review.
Yeah.
Am I incorrect on that?
I don't know.
The two characters in Pillion is Colin and Ray. Colin is the submissive who doesn't really know he's submissive yet. Very timid, very closed, very awkward, very quiet.
I would say has very low self-esteem.
And Ray, the dom, who is a confident biker gang leader, starts a BDSM relationship with Colin, whose mundane existence is flipped on its head through unconventional dynamics.
It was advertised as a dom-com, so which kind of makes it feel like it's going to be a comedy. And while there are comedic elements to it, and there are places that make you giggle and smile, it's not a comedy.
And this was actually a major complaint by a number of Kinksters that we saw the movie with. The marketing made it seem much more upbeat, love story, rom-com. The trailers would say things like beautiful and sexy and would show Colin, portrayed by Melling, doing a wonderful job, but confused and overwhelmed. It'll say salty and sweet, and then you'll see Alex Skarsgård playing Ray, and they're really just talking about his dick. But don't just take our word for it. Before we really break down the ins and the outs of the movie, we were actually invited to the red carpet. So I feel like the best place to start is our trip and traveling to get to the theater.
Pineapple.
Hi, welcome to the A24 screening of Pillion live at the Castro Theater.
Are you gay or something?
Do you give?
Do you give?
Yes!
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello, how's it going? I got three quick questions. Yeah. So I'm an educator here in San Francisco. We teach on sex and kink. I'm curious, why this script, why this film? What really touched you about the original book and screenplay?
Well, I can answer for the book. I think that what I loved about the book was that it treated the relationship not as a blueprint for a kink relationship, but as something which felt very true to me in terms of it being, from Colin's perspective, a kind of induction into this world of kink, something which is complex and which, through kind of participating in, he learns how to better define his desires. And, that was a story I thought was worth telling.
It is a very complex film in such a way that I'm curious, what do you want people to take away from this? And I mean kinky, vanilla, gay, straight, what's something you want them to take from this film?
I hope they enjoy themselves, first and foremost. I hope people that aren't familiar with this subculture learn something about it and can just have a an insight into what it is. And I hope that people that are feel that their world is reflected in the movie. So that was one of the most exciting things about saying yes to this project. I felt like Harry's script managed to catch both those things. So I hope that's what they take away from it.
Gorgeous shot, so emotional. There's so many complex feelings in there that leave you wanting more, but at the same time, learning so much, whether you're in the community or not. What was left on the cutting room floor you wish would have been included, if anything?
I mean, dare I say it, like, nothing in terms of, like, the explicit material. That's exactly the way I wanted it to be. But I could have done with, like, a few more shots of the sausage dog, the dachshund. I was told we needed to trim those down for sort of time purposes, but I could have watched 10 minutes of Hippo walking into town.
And last but not least, I think it's important, whether you're in the bedroom or outside the bedroom, kinky or straight, what's your safe word?
Mine is Rumpy Pumpy.
No follow-up questions.
Pineapple.
Oh, okay. I love. Hey, thank you guys so much. Amazing film. Thank you for coming to the Castro Theater.
Thank you so
A
much.
pleasure.
And our story starts with Colin, who's performing and working in a bar as part of a quartet and singing, and is just in a bar one night and happens upon a very brooding, tall, dark, and handsome that I think it starts out, their meet cute is literally, he's at the bar, Colin, the
What'd you
submissive.
say, meet cute?
Meet cute. Have you
What's
ever heard
that?
meet cute?
No.
It's like a trope. You're like, it's cute that we meet up this way.
Okay.
It's a meet cute. And so their meet cute moment is they're at the bar and Colin's ordering, and Ray walks up confident as ever, tells the lady he wants some chips and a few snacks, and then looks at Colin to pay for him. This
Right.
is their first meetup.
They haven't said a word to each other yet.
And it was in that moment I was like, oh, this is like a test, a BDSM test, a dynamic test. And it looks like he's passed the test because he does get Ray's number. But we're quickly brought back down to earth, and we're reminded Colin's pretty immature in a lot of ways, even though he is in his mid-30s and still living with his parents, who just so happens that his parents are doting, loving, I found a lot of what Colin and his parents had going on similar to my upbringing, because my parents were very loving and affectionate and almost like gripping a soap a little too tight, because they care so much about Colin, to the point where they find out about his date, Colin tells them about it, and we just get some comedy gold with lines like this.
A biker sounds exciting. You can borrow your dad's leather jacket.
Which to me means they care about his happiness more than anything, or that Colin inherited certain proclivities from his dad.
Yeah,
when
the mother
soap
was a
slips
little
away.
overbearing, but she was also dying of cancer.
What was your initial impression of their dynamic as it started? Like the very first meeting into the first cruising.
Well, it's hard not to be taken away by Scarsdale's beauty, right?
Skarsgård?
Skarsgård. His rugged handsomeness and his control. It draws you in, that kind of somebody having that much confidence. So you're like, ooh, this is kind of hot.
And there is a cuteness to it. Like there's a bit of a dynamic that blossoms very quickly between the two, because you can tell that Colin is enamored.
Yeah, and he thinks Ray is way out of his league.
I agree.
Definitely.
I
With that
agree.
haircut, absolutely. His haircut was really dorky. Yeah.
Colin has like this ass, like bangs, bob, like it's the TikTok haircut, like the part in the middle that comes down and like wavy over his face.
Yeah.
He looks ridiculous, but nevertheless, he and his parents persist as he does set a time and date to meet Ray for a first date.
They meet at an outdoor mall.
They call this their date. This is a date.
Right.
And Colin, for whatever reason, tells his parents about this date. And they're like, oh, you're going to get murdered. You're going to get killed. Make sure you want to take the dog with you. And so he literally walks the dog to kind of have some sort of reason to be on this date.
It's
Aw.
funny, the juxtaposition of dogs too, because they both brought dogs to this date.
Mhm.
And,
But
and
my favorite
Ray's
part,
dog was like this big, like,
it's a Rottweiler.
Bruh.
And then Colin has literally a dachshund. And so they put their dogs up and then immediately walk to like this dumpster in the back of a bar. And it's awkward. It's clunky.
well, the first power move, did you notice Ray hung his jacket on like this rack on a fence,
Mhm.
and Colin clumsily tried to mimic it and put it, and his jacket fell on the ground,
Mhm.
and Ray said,
Leave it.
as if less than.
So the cruising to immediate blowjob is awkward and like very like, oh, you just kind of, you watch this submissive and you're like, oh.
All right.
But that's where it
trying.
hooked the gaze, because when Ray pulls his out of his pants, you can see a hard-on being pulled out. The cutting is just perfect. So you don't see the full hard-on come out, but you see like
You
the
see parts of it.
girth
Yeah.
of it coming out.
You see parts of it.
Yeah.
And I'm told it's a fake dick. So Alexander Skarsgård, who I'm sure has a lovely dick.
Allegedly. But
There is a lot of, this is a plus in my own personal opinion. This movie does a good job of showing sex that is not cringe as much as it is real. And there are a lot of sexy bits to it, along with some pain as you watch some sex scenes unfold.
Ray had Colin lick his boots, and as Colin was licking his boots, he would lick and then like silently spit it back out onto the asphalt. And
But while he starts with the boots, Colin does eventually get ahead and does impress Ray at least a little bit. And do you remember how they meet up again after that?
I think Ray calls him.
Yeah.
So he comes to Colin's front door to pick him up on his motorcycle.
Come on, Colin.
All right, you just. All right.
And the parents are
The
there.
parents answer the
and the
door.
parents are curious as fuck. And yes, you're right. It does remind me of your mother. She has to know where are you taking my son? And and they literally follow both of the men out to the motorcycle instead of.
Do you have a helmet for
Yeah.
him?
He's not getting on without one.
He is not getting on without one.
It's where kink and BDSM meets like family dynamics and relationships. And I think that's one of the strongest, most real parts of the movie, is because it's uncomfortable, it's clunky, it's awkward, but you can tell people care. And that's why they put themselves in between BDSM dynamics.
So I think that was one of the funnier scenes of the movie because of that awkwardness.
You sure you know what you're doing? I rode a bike when I met Colin's mum. Right, it'll be good. Right, have fun! Watch out for the ice!
Up until that point, I was in it.
There's a certain point where things turn.
I was
but it's
happy
not
for
until
Colin.
like later, I would say. And he takes him on a bike ride. They go over his place.
They get to the house. Ray hangs his jacket up and makes Colin put his jacket on the floor. And then they get to, then he just says, "This is my kitchen."
Pots and pans down there. And, yeah, something quick tonight.
And Colin doesn't know how to cook. So he's like, okay, I didn't know I was supposed to do this. There was very little explanation from the Dom of what was expected.
He had no experience. He had no
Awkwardly
self-esteem.
and as quickly as he could.
Yeah.
Because he was just enamored to be in Ray's presence. Through the entire thing, Ray did not speak to him.
Yeah.
Didn't speak to him. He started watching TV, sat on a couch, patted the couch, and the dog jumps up instead. And Colin was just left holding their dinners going, where am I supposed to sit?
So he stands behind him and
So he's-
eats as they
and
watch
eats.
the news
And
or TV or
still,
something.
No communication whatsoever. No small talk, no anything.
So when they go to the bedroom,
And then Ray says, "Do you snore?"
Well, if you're quiet, you can sleep on the rug.
Rug.
If not, you should go in the hallway.
And he's like, "I don't think I do," and which is a valid thing. I don't think I do either.
that's incorrect and untrue.
just-
But this is one thing that, while it was kind of sexy, but also at the same time, he sleeps at the foot of the bed every night going on. And so this is the start of their dynamic and relationship. There's little negotiation and talking that happens. And so you're just kind of left to roll with the punches and assume that this is a normal BDSM dynamic.
And up to this point, I was like, yeah, if you wanted to be just treated like a piece of meat and subservient to someone, I could see how this dynamic would be hot. I would have wished it was discussed ahead of time so that both parties, and this is where we're at with BDSM now, both parties would agree to a situation like this. But I've fantasized about this kind of dynamic before.
Yeah.
I just be told what to do, you do it.
And that's where the fantasy and reality kind of break apart a little bit, and you don't really know what's what. But they move so quickly through this and over the time that you're just, the next session and next scene that you're seeing is them like wrestling in my singlet. Yeah. So no joke, but the evening that we saw this film for the first time, we were actually going to be going to a sex party later that evening, and I'd laid out an entire costume, which did include, and I was fully planning to wear this singlet, which for obvious reasons we're not going to show the back of in the film, but the funniest part of all of this. And it's at this moment in the film is where we really feel that dynamic and that romance and that sexual energy really building up. Or as Daddy would say,
there's a bond being formed, right?
Both fluid and metaphorical.
Yeah.
But they have this really awkward like wrestling scene. It's at this point that I was like, you watch Colin essentially have sex with Ray for the first time, penetrative. And he's like, ow, that hurt a lot more than I thought, but I really liked it. And that was nice being used.
The fuck scene was uncomfortable for me to watch because you could tell that I think it was his first time ever being fucked. It hurt, and you could see that on his face, but he wasn't going to say anything.
Sorry about that. I didn't think it was going to hurt so much.
Fun side note to the wrestling scene, it actually was the scene that made Colin's actor say yes to being in the film, but was the first scripted part of the entire film that Harry Lighton, the director, had written because he is apparently a huge wrestling fan. After the first sex that they have, it quickly turns from a date into I want you to stay here. He sends Colin to go get groceries for dinner, and tells him,
I'll come back before 6.
6 today.
Are you busy tonight? Is there a booming market for Colin Smiths that I'm not aware of?
We don't know what's gonna happen between then, but he says, and also,
Buy yourself a butt plug. You're too tight.
Yeah. There was the joke that made it a dom-com, that one joke.
I will say, it's these small jokes that really humanize Ray to a degree. In a theater, they hit hard. When you're in a smaller number of people watching it, it's a little more awkward and harder to really read Ray and his monotone dryness. But I think that the character is so well written in that way. And I do want to reiterate, watching this in a theater is the best viewing of this movie. Because when I watched it at home with just a few of my friends, it just felt empty. Like Colin's butt. Sorry. It's those relatable moments of having to go buy a butt toy because you're a little too tight in the back, you know, bottoms. We've been there, but not until 6 p.m. No sooner. We don't know why, and we never will know what Ray does for a living. That's one of the craziest parts of this movie's writing. But it was done intentionally by the director, who told us at a Q&A that Ray's character, his dark, mysterious past and current present, is meant to be kind of innocuous, but it's not something to be dark and maliciously kept away from Colin. It's done to be more sexual and sensual, and it's done as part of the kink play. And even if we wanted to get to the bottom of things, pun intended, we're never told. We never know. Not even in the book do we find out what Ray did for a living. And speaking of bottoms, where we at? Colin doesn't come back until 6 p.m. like the good boy that he is. And as he approaches Ray's place, he sees bikes out front, he hears a commotion inside, and this is the very first time that we meet the gang. TM, the gang. I'm just gonna be calling them the gang because it's the group of Kinksters that really make up the heart of this film. Probably my favorite part of the movie too, because it shifts from the sex and the hot and steamy to immediately you see the dynamics of and the really nicely shot parts of them on the motorcycles. Mm-hmm. This is where it kind of gives me a Call Me By Your Name vibe a little bit, with the ethereal music, the soundtrack being so touching in a lot of ways. And then you get these shots of them riding on the back or Colin on the back of the motorcycle being a pillion to Ray and this motorcycle crew. And I think my favorite part of the movie is after this kind of Pretty Woman motorcycle montage, it just hard cuts to Colin in full biker gear, a collar, and his head fully shaved. Remember, he had that bob before. Now he's just got a shaved head, collar, and you see him walking into this group of bikers all being like, yeah, welcome to the crew, like patting him on the back, rubbing his head.
And he looks like one of them. And I really feel like this was a missed opportunity. Lots of people are saying this movie is a good representative to outsiders from the kink community to show kind of what our lifestyle is like. I wish they had shown the meaning of getting your head shaved and the meaning of collaring someone. I think they could have included that, and that would have made it a little better for me.
Sure.
I think. Instead, they just cut to this has happened, but didn't explain the meaning of any of it.
If you're in the know of the BDSM community, I think you watch that scene, you're like, oh,
right.
At least I was.
But if you're not in the know, that doesn't make sense to you. You just think, oh, he looks like a biker now.
The community members in the gang really set the stage and show you what community looks like. And my favorite part about this is they interviewed and talked with over 100 different bikers that lived in the area where they were going to film to get real life Kinksters in on the dynamics, in on the filming, in on the camaraderie. And Harry Melling even talks about how wonderfully magical it was filming with all the bikers local to that area. We even knew a few of the people that were in the film. This is the part where I went, oh, Colin is given access to this secret world that he didn't know existed. And I think that's also part of the reason why he stays with Ray, even with some or a lot of red flags that do pop up. But you also see some kink red flags in the frenzy of Colin getting access to the kink community. We see Colin putting Ray first in every instance, but we don't see that from Ray. Like, he's even putting Ray first at his own birthday party with his parents.
Yeah, sorry, 1 second.
My dude, your mom is dying of cancer and you are writing ingredients for dinner that you have to cook for Ray on your own birthday card? Ray doesn't seem to care for Colin, especially when Ray says things like this.
I hope you're not expecting a birthday present, Colin. No, I'm not. It's just...
Ray is the worst. Except plot twist, he's not, because the gang shows up at the crack of dawn and surprises Colin for his birthday. And they do something that touched me a little bit, was like a big camping trip of the biker gang. They go out into the woods and you see like puppies and chastity devices and Mistress Other canine hoods.
Yeah.
You see people riding bikes in the wilderness. You see Colin having moments with other people that aren't just montages, because you don't really hear from the other people in this gang with voice lines almost ever.
What Jake Shears did.
Minus Jake Shears, that's what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. In that he pushes back at Colin and kind of negs him a little bit about how Colin is like the softer side of Ray, and Ray needs him because he's such a little bitch, kind of.
You guys look really good together. You sort of bring his qualities into relief.
But even with Colin fighting his inner saboteur and his outer saboteur in the form of Jake Shears' character, you walk away from the camping trip feeling warm and fuzzy and like some really good movement is happening in their relationship.
Happy birthday, Colin.
Ultimately, their dynamic seems to be going well, seems to be doing really, really good until Colin asks Ray to meet the family.
I don't know how he finally convinced him to do it.
I think because his mom's health starts to really deteriorate.
Yeah, but we don't see that conversation.
No,
So we don't
have to
know
assume.
how that occurred. We just see them at the family dinner table.
And there's some niceties at the family dinner table eventually when Ray does agree. And it's really cute. Like Ray says things like,
Colin makes a good gravy.
Colin makes a pretty good omelet, but that's about it.
which is like demeaning but funny. Like everyone at the dinner table laughs about that. But then the mom,
Except the mother.
yeah, then the mom really quickly like claps back and is
What's up with you?
like, do you respect my son? You know,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing to respect and cherish my boy?
Because I'm not one to judge. I'm just interested. What's your secret? Have you got another life?
Ray said, well, that's kind of none of your business, basically. And that kind of got her hair ruffled, which is ironic because she had wigs on.
Did you just say wig? Yes.
She's like, I don't really like how you're speaking to my son.
I'm not sure I like the way you talk to my son.
Well, that is fine. It's not for you to like.
Because she's seeing this BDSM dynamic, which is really hard to do in front of family, right?
Yeah.
Because you have this submissive BDSM dynamic. What's okay in your own private home is not okay in front of your parents.
And it'd be one thing if it was just a little bit of an awkward back and forth. I've been there before. Moms asking questions they know that they shouldn't.
Excuse me?
But it's that back and forth and the growing kink dynamic versus wanting a happy family life that is super real. And it's not against BDSM rules to have a normal family life and then a BDSM kink dynamic that are kind of separate, but it can be especially difficult when it's your very first kink dynamic ever. Not to mention Colin's mom is not doing so well, and so it does feel a little stressful to have these moments when she is currently dealing with cancer.
I can see that I make you uncomfortable.
No, it's okay, Ray. I get the dynamic. I just feel that in this moment you should be a little bit more patient with Colin's mom. She's kind of dealing with things.
Deciding that what makes you uncomfortable is bad for your son, pretty backwards way of thinking.
I beg your pardon?
I do think Ray has a point. I just think we could be a little bit more.
You sound a little ignorant.
Well, you sound like a Mum. He's a creep. Our son is going out with a good-looking creep.
Colin's trying to like bring his mom back down, but also like apologize to Ray in front of each other.
Right.
And it doesn't go well. But the weirdest part, and probably my least favorite, this is where it starts to go downhill for me, is it immediately cuts to her funeral.
That scene was where you kind of lost me. I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Ray was such a dick to the mother, uncalled for. He was being polite at first, but then was just an ungracious dick and left. I that amount of disrespect made me so uncomfortable and cringy. I was like, this is not okay. So the mother dies.
Colin goes to the funeral by himself, and then he comes home to Ray after his bike ride. And of all things, he has to cook his own dinner for him and Ray the night that his mom died.
And he purposefully self-harms by touching the hot boiling pot. Ray comes in and tries to do care for his sub by putting his arms under cold water. But
he can't even
Colin
do that.
is so distraught, he's having a mental breakdown. And if we're talking about movies that are portraying our BDSM lifestyle in a positive way, the mainstream movies often portray subs as low self-esteem, hurting themselves, something wrong with them, and the dom taking advantage of them. And I don't like that trope. But it also brought the human side of Ray out. Maybe you're thinking maybe he knows he's gone too far.
For me, this moment almost mirrored when we thought Ray didn't care about Colin and his birthday. This movie does a good job of giving you some down moments that then are brought right back up again as Ray orders some pizza and even has some very well done puns.
Hey, do you want to hear a pizza joke? Nah, it's too cheesy. Are you gonna eat, or do you want me to keep going? Because I got plenty of pizza jokes here.
I'm gonna start eating.
I can go all night, baby.
Baby? The Ice King's melted a bit, so it seems. So much so that evening at bedtime,
Ray lets him sleep in the bed one time.
Sleep in the bed. It wasn't a question.
and I kid you not, everyone in the theater was going, oh, finally a bit of romance to bring up this somber mood. And it shows that Ray does have the capacity to care. He has emotions, he has sympathy, and he does care about Colin. But what happens when the L word comes up? No, I'm not talking about lesbians. No, I'm not talking about lobotomy, though Ray might need one.
You know I love you, right?
Oh, stop the movie there. This is the moment. This is just the...
That's not what this is, Colin. It's not the point.
Isn't love the whole point?
Of what?
Everything.
In his sleep, Ray rolls over and his arm falls over Colin, right? He's passed out, so this isn't a real snuggle.
But it does.
Colin is like, oh,
it feels loving. It feels loving. There's music behind it that makes you feel like, oh, this is a positive. But it quickly degenerates from there because Colin then says,
I was wondering if maybe I could sleep in your bed a bit more often.
which I think is perfectly reasonable. How often?
Once a week.
It's not like it's a full day off, right?
Once a week, we could sort of have a day off.
Ooh, Colin, I don't know.
Once a week, it could be nice. It could be fun.
Colin,
No.
this boy has not had a real relationship yet. And so he is trying to negotiate for the first time with no knowledge of how to negotiate in BDSM. And Ray,
No.
to his own merit, has never misconstrued his expectations. He has been very clear about what he wants. And he says no.
I don't know if he's been... He
We don't know.
hasn't
We don't
been
know.
clear in a communication way.
Yeah.
He's been clear in actions. And it's all his way. He's never taken Colin's feelings or emotions into consideration.
Because Colin's never spoken up because he doesn't know how to. He doesn't know the dynamic and he doesn't know how to advocate for himself. And so after being denied the one thing he's asking for, a single day off, he rebels a bit and he steals Ray's motorcycle that evening and goes for a joyride. The moment escalates from 0 to 60, and while we're burning some rubber on asphalt and hitting a few speed bumps along the way, it's a pivotal moment for Colin to shift into the next gear of his life. There's this moment when he's on his joyride where Colin is speeding around and passing a truck on the opposite side of the road. It mirrors this wonderful moment at the beginning of the film, showing Colin watching Ray on his bike drive past the car that he's in with his parents. He is quite literally in a passenger seat of the car in the beginning of the film. And now he is in the driver's seat of a bike. He is shaved head, collar on, half naked, but finally taking control of his own life, even if it is acting out and showing a bit of defiance at Ray's expense. This is the major showing of growth within the movie, and I would have been perfectly fine if the movie had stopped right here. Maybe they just parted ways or figured out whatever it is they needed to figure out and showed this growth from Colin. But there is, unfortunately, one more act left in this film. One final day. As we cut to Colin on the steps of Ray's apartment, we see that Ray finds him asleep on the pavement and gives him a firm, what I thought was understanding, come on in, get inside. And the most surprising part, when we go inside, Ray's cooked an entire breakfast. Ray, not Colin. And that's not even the biggest part. Ray offers Colin the one thing he's asked for.
I thought we could try a day off.
The entire theater, oh, yes. Woo! Like everybody's cheering. And the day off starts awkward but nice. Like makes him breakfast. Ray asks,
What would you like to do?
What do you want to do?
No. You decide.
God, they're one of these couples. In my mind, you're watching this and you think that Ray is kind of warming up and it's turning into a bit more romance.
It feels like Ray is enjoying the coupley things that they're doing. They have a good giggle and a laugh and ask two ladies who sings better. And
oh yeah.
Which one do you prefer?
Oh, him.
Him?
Yeah.
You serious?
You serious?
And then they go to a movie theater and they get caught jacking off.
You gotta clean my seat! Popcorn!
Get chased out of the movie theater. And then it kind of becomes a competition of running. And so they're running up this hill to this park, and then they're falling on top of each other, which I guess is a movie trope of, one person lands on the other and their faces are close. So do they kiss? And
they do. And the crowd goes wild, quite literally. In our theater we were watching, everyone went, oh, people were gasping. People were so happy. And then you see Ray's face and you can just tell something isn't right. And you see him, how would you describe his face?
He was staring into, like, with just this blank stare. For me, it kind of looked like someone with a lot of trauma being triggered and frozen.
It was like a deer caught in the headlights knowing that something bad's about to happen.
And like he was broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that he wasn't ready for the emotion. And he realizes in that moment that he can't do it. He can't try. And we get a fast forward a few days, who knows how long later, to Colin being driven by his dad to Ray's place. And Ray's just gone.
He's cleaned out his apartment and moved. So he's completely ghosted with no explanation.
Fuck. Dude, I just come on. I'll be honest. I was super emotional at this part, both times I saw this movie, because I've had doms like this before. And I had a dom when I first got involved in the community who I built a rapport with, I was very close with, chatted daily, and out of nowhere one day, he ghosted me. I thought, hey, maybe if I just put myself out there more and find him and he'll accept that I've grown and I'll apologize for the thing that I did, even though I wasn't really the reason that things went wrong. I had that dom in my mind who I put on a pedestal as he was actively taking advantage of me. But watching this, I was mad. I was sad. I hated this movie. I didn't like it at all. But a week later, I couldn't stop thinking about how the movie ended and how complex this story was, but also how necessary I wish I had this film at a young age when I was first getting into the kink community. And after seeing the film a second time and hearing the Q&A from the director, which I'll have linked in the description down below, it really opened my eyes to the intent of the film and also what I took away from it. Because I couldn't stop thinking about this film. I couldn't stop thinking about the ending. It was so divisive and it was so important to me. And I came to the conclusion, I really like this film. As much as the ending pisses a lot of people off, and I totally get it, but if your criticism is that Ray gets away with it and that this film in turn is then endorsing this kind of behavior and this kind of abuse, I would argue that that's not the point of this story. This story is about Colin and his growth. And that's why I loved this film, because it showed real, raw, and while fantastical in many ways, BDSM experiences that people can learn from and hopefully take something away to help them grow as a kinkster themselves. And so we get this final raw shot of Colin again sitting in the passenger seat, feeling his emotions, feeling sad, feeling lost, feeling bruised, and just hurt. But it's nothing a little song can't fix. La 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 la. It does end with him back in the quartet singing. He's got a much better cut of hair. You know, he has hair.
He had a little beard.
Yeah. And he's writing a Grindr profile of all things. But he's writing a Grindr profile where he's talking about his wants, his needs, his boundaries.
I've been told I have an aptitude for devotion. I'm obedient, hardworking, and excellent at following instructions. I won't cut my hair for no one, and I do require one day off a week. that's not up for debate.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he went his wants, needs, and boundaries so much as he just was like, I need one day off.
I read it as he's learning to advocate for himself.
Yeah, and that's how the book is as well.
With that synopsis out of the way, I would love to go into some positives and negatives of what we thought about the movie, because everyone's been asking nonstop what we think of the movie.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with a positive or something you liked about it?
I thought it really provided healthy kink dynamics in the background. I think the people who showed the most kink dynamics were the people hired as extras when they went camping, so Jake Shears, our friend Freak, and others in the community who do know BDSM dynamics, they had really healthy kind of displays of kink.
And there was good chemistry.
And I think that's what makes our community lean into this movie and go, okay, we're getting positive
representation.
Representation to a mainstream audience. And they didn't sugarcoat it. They showed
everything.
Stuff. And so they weren't hiding it or trying to make it more vanilla. It was, this is who we are. We're proud of it. So I liked that aspect because it did give a sense of real BDSM lifestyle.
I agree with you on that. How the relationship starts, the first engagement's awkward, it's silly, it's funny at parts, but it's clearly a dom trying to feel it out. And the wrestling scene was fun, it was silly, it was sexy. You were seeing someone go through their first penetrative sex and trying to find the goods, but also be very vocal. Oh, that was painful. Oh, that hurt. You saw some advocating for yourself there.
I liked when Colin finally, when he got a taste of having a day off, asked and advocated for himself.
Yeah.
That was a positive, because I know that's very hard for subs because they don't want to jeopardize the part of the dynamic that they like, being controlled and serving. They don't want to upset that apple cart. And so for him to do that was a huge self-awareness on his part, and kudos for doing that. Now, the dom absolutely said no and shut it down. Didn't like that part. It had so many positives and negatives to it, but it was a story that felt very real.
And that's why I liked the no's. Even though they were uncomfortable, they showed real dynamics and how they could go.
Not healthy, but showed
we'll get to that.
Dynamics.
The movie itself, I think, is beautifully shot. It's gorgeous to watch, and it's methodically shot too. Like when you look at Ray, he's usually framed in like a camera's downward looking up at him, implying dominance, where Colin is usually a downward angle, whether he's on his knees or on his back or not. But whenever you see Ray being caring, it's focused on his hand and what his hands are doing for Colin. And I think that it's methodically shot that way to show the dominance, but also the care where it does happen.
I also think the dom did care in his own way. So like he shut down Colin because Colin asked for something for his birthday, and Ray said, I hope you're not expecting anything for your birthday. But then flash forward 3 hours, he had a surprise little cupcake in the window with a candle in it, and all the bikers came and did donuts in the driveway. So that showed Ray wasn't a complete dick, but I think also Ray knew that Colin's true self loved to serve and be of use.
Now, this is probably the most positive part of my review of it, but it is in the negative experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So listen to me.
That's my whole feeling of the whole movie.
Yeah. So this movie is a coming of age film for Kinksters who are new to the community.
Okay.
Myself and Samson and the other younger people had a similar view of this. Colin doesn't know what he wants, and through this relationship learns how to navigate, talk about what they need, advocate, and has better boundaries in the end.
And a sense of being
belonging,
needed, wanted, and desired.
So he has that non-traditional submissive relationship that he's learning about and building out, but he also has that conflict, and I've had this before, of wanting a traditional lover and romance. And that's a tough thing to experience, but also to explain in a movie that way. And I think they do a really good job of it.
And that's why lots of people can't do both and go outside of their relationship to get one or the other. It is a hard balancing act to pull off. Ray absolutely did not want the loving, emotional aspect of it. He just wanted someone to serve him and do what he said. And I know a lot of doms like that. And I think this was also how BDSM was done in the early 70s. There was not a lot of negotiation to it. This was kind of taken for granted that the dom is always right and the dom tells you what to do, and a lot of abusive doms came out of that.
What really spoke to me though about that writing was that Colin was granted access to this forbidden, highly kinky, highly taboo, highly enticing world that he didn't have access to before. And I think that's why he stays in this relationship longer than he should.
Right.
But he does survive there. And I think that that is a positive, at least for his story, that he learns and he grows. And I really like that as a coming of age kink story.
I just wish it didn't have to hurt him so much.
I agree. But as someone who's been hurt by abusive doms in the past, I absolutely resonate with that story. And that's why I really enjoyed the movie.
I agree with you that he got a sense of self-worth out of this. That actually made me feel good, that the change when he was accepted into the biker gang, feeling like one of them and a piece, that for somebody who had no self-esteem, I think it was really a good thing for him, and shows what a BDSM dynamic can do for someone's self-esteem.
Was the moment where he walked in his fitted leathers that Ray got him, his whole biker getup, with his head shaved, thank God that haircut's gone, and the collar was just, that was the moment that I went, oh, it was so beautiful. Because
that was one of the funniest parts of the movie. Is when Ray got him all the boxes of new leathers, and he had to bring it up the stairs, but he didn't take his backpack off, so he didn't fit up the stairs around the turn.
And that's there were small parts like that.
So that was cute. That was funny.
There were
like
small
that.
BDSM realties in moments like that. And then even then, like you watch him walk out in his full garb, and then you see Ray has a key on a chain around his neck that goes to his collar. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, I do like this movie. And I really did enjoy the movie up until Ray off. Like that was the part where I was like, the date to the Ray. But that's how the director wanted Ray to be portrayed. The director wrote these scenes with conflict so that you took a side, like intentionally made it so that even the bitter or the mad or the brooding characters had a perspective that you could see and understand. Ray versus Colin when they're trying to negotiate. Ray versus the mom at dinner, awkward and hard to watch, but you find yourself taking a side. And even the ending. The film captures the duality of curiosity, hesitation, desire, and in the two sides of every conflict, exploration, learning limits, and setting boundaries. It just hurts so good. Ow. Nope. I was just sitting on Colin's butt plug, sorry. Which leads us right into the dislikes. Daddy.
So the entire movie made me feel uncomfortable all the way. I don't like to hurt people purposefully. There were some mean-spirited things that Ray did in their dynamic. Like one of those sex scenes when they're out camping, he comes up behind Colin and unzips his dick and then moves on to the other boy.
Who just happens to be Jake Shears, who moments before was kind of negging Colin.
Because he was mad about they were playing this game in the lake where two doms had their boys on their shoulders and they're trying to push each other over, and Colin lost the game. And so in a mean-spirited way, Ray trades out Colin for somebody else's boy, for Jake Shears, and Jake Shears gets on his and he's like, even yells out to Colin, "Don't sulk," because Colin is kind of like, oh.
He gets cucked by another sub.
But it was done mean-spiritedly.
It was. If I was a new Kinkster watching that scene, I would be like, oh, it's normal to just abuse your partner in front of other people? Okay, that's...
If it was done in like a humiliation scene that the sub wanted, that's a whole different thing. But it was so mean with no explanation and just like, you're worthless, get out of here. For me, it felt like that day off of pure pleasure for the sub was a punishment for stealing the bike, going on a joyride with the bike, And then knowing I'm going to take away all the pleasure I just gave you and hurt you and scar you for life. I hated that.
I also hated that moment, but I disagree fully on the reasoning of why that all happens.
Okay.
Ray spends this normal coupley-like day trying to show Colin the day off, the what he's wanting, thinking that he's going to sway Colin and show him that's not really what you want. But in that, he finds that this is what Colin wants. And he also finds he does not have the capacity to love someone in that way, to feel for someone in that way. And emotionally, he's so immature, doesn't provide good BDSM representation in general. But he denies Colin the negotiation opportunities, even when mom's dying. Like, there's no emotion, there's no ability to love within Ray. And I think he runs because he's scared. I don't think it's a vindictive thing. I don't think. Because the look at the very end of the movie, the way that Ray looks directly into camera, that's not a look of I've planned this entire thing. That's a look of realization that this isn't going to work out.
And that's why this movie is so good, because it's very thought-provoking and everyone's going to have a different take of every scene, because every scene is going to hit home in some way that feels personal to you. We'll never know the answer because it's never explained where Ray goes or why he left that way.
Well, Pillion 2, Electric Boogaloo. No. Can we talk about the characterization of Kinksters once again, just in a general like pop culture sense, but also focusing on this, because this movie does another wonderfully terrible job of painting Kinksters as broken, as abused, as emotionally unavailable, because Ray is. I want to say that this is not a good guidebook to BDSM, but I think a lot of people will see it and find sexiness in it. And similar to 50 Shades of Grey, might find a bit of an awkward confusion as to what you're supposed to do in the scene, but that this might bring in people with a much better light than BDSM that was present in 50 Shades. Like, there was a lot of love and care in their dynamic, along with a lot of abuse, but it wasn't just the abuse in the sexy parts like you got in 50 Shades.
I think the background actors in the bike gang showed the best representation of true BDSM dynamics of modern day. I'm very glad they were in the movie and included, and the way they promoted the movie is very true to that. So that I agree with you. It's like just like the secretary in 50 Shades, where the dom is closed off and has no emotion and damaged in some way, and the sub is equally damaged, self-harming,
gets in over their head. Well,
and so that is a trope in BDSM kind of mainstream movies, and I just don't want to be represented that. I'd love for someone to come out with a BDSM movie that wasn't the case. That was a healthy BDSM dynamic.
And I want a fun movie that comes out that let's have some hardships, but let's paint it with a nice happy ending. Why can't Kinksters be happy? You know, that's kind of that was my last couple
and
notes
well
here.
Adjusted.
When you started out, did you ever have an abusive dom?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially back in the 90s. And that's why I'm saying this was written during a time when BDSM was different, and it was the role play was real life, and a lot of doms treated you this way. You do what I say, no matter if you like it or not. And that has evolved and changed over time as more communication and aftercare wasn't a thing.
Both in the movie and back then, yeah.
No, thankfully, BDSM dynamics have changed over time.
It's not a good representation, but it is a real representation, is how I'm kind of...
Well, that's unfortunate.
I didn't say I loved it, but I do think that it's a good movie. I like a lot about it up until the end parts. And then it's unfortunately too real and feels way too close to home in some ways. But I will say, I think an older generation's not going to like it. I think a younger generation is going to lean more towards enjoying it. It shows a place for people to grow and find themselves. And Colin didn't find a relationship in there, but he found himself. And I really liked that about the coming of age of this story.
It is thought-provoking.
Oh, yeah.
You will come up with your own opinions about every scene.
Your own opinions? So why is this film important? Besides showing and portraying a dynamic that is fantastical in many ways, it gives you a blueprint for a type of BDSM dynamic. It gives you lessons, what you can learn from Colin and Ray. But I think that the director said it best when he said,
I guess like the root of why I make films is often to like give me the courage wish to live something into existence. A lot of my films are ways of me kind of forcing myself to engage with stuff about my own life, which I find intimidating. And this film definitely has like pushed me towards being like a more kind of confident embodier of my own sexuality and you know, embracing the kind of kinky sides of me. So I think, you know, it's made like a very tangible change to the way I go about my business.
So we would love to know what you guys thought. We would love to hear your thoughts. This is a longer podcast than normal because we really had a lot of thoughts about this movie.
There's a lot to say.
I'm still thinking about it. You know, I'm going to be thinking about it for the next week. I've been talking about it left and right with friends that have seen it and people that wanted to know my thoughts having not seen it yet. And I really think it is best to go into this. If you've listened to this entire pod, it's a little late for that.
Yeah.
But
I feel bad. So sorry. We did warn you at the
we warned.
We did.
We warned. There was consent involved, unlike some of the things in that movie. But I hope, this is my hope, this is my Colin in me. I am hoping for even more from this. I'm hoping that the audiences watching this feel adult enough that they saw the sex, they saw the BDSM, and they're like, hot. I want to see more of that because I think we deserve that. I think we deserve that. I think we can have that. I think that the actors in this did a good job portraying their characters.
It's a haunting, thought-provoking movie.
Yeah. And we hope that you can go into this movie still, if you've listened to all this, and see it the way we did, but also form your own opinions. I am so curious to see, because it's not fully out yet as of recording this, but it will be by the time this pod goes up. I'm curious to see what you guys thought. I want to know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Did you think the ending was premeditated? Do you think that it was a realization? What are your thoughts on the movie? I end up giving it, I think, a solid 8.5 out of 10. It is not perfect. It's fantastical in so many ways, but it made me feel so many things. And I think it's been about 2 weeks now that I've seen this film twice, and I'm still thinking about it. I really, really enjoyed it. I want to know what you guys have to say down below. Please let us know what you thought of the film. Give us a like, give us a comment of what movie you want us to review next, and don't forget to subscribe to What's a Safe Word, and we will talk to you next time. We cannot wait to hear from y'all and all of your Pillions, but we will talk to you next time. Bye.
It is crazy. The line is quite literally down the block both ways.
This is the line to get tickets for the movie. This is Wilco line, and then the leather group is up that way.
And the most exciting part, we have not been in the Castro Theater for the last, 3 years, Daddy?
3 years, yeah. 3 years.
And now we get to see it with an entire theater just full of leather, kinky San Francisco people. Lifetime dream experience. What do you have to say, Daddy?
I'm just doing camera. I'm good. I'm good. I'm just behind the scenes. And I am saying things. I'm very curious, and I want to hear this in the Q&A. Why the director changed endings from the book. That is
Okay. Yeah, you spoiled so much in the podcast I had to take out. Yes, you did. Let's go watch it.
Okay, so the other exciting thing is this will be the first movie that is playing in the new renovated Castro Street. Look at this. It is amazing. Look at everything that we have here. Look at the ceiling. Look what they did.
What was the first thing you saw here in the Castro Theater years ago?
Oh, God. Oh, you know what? Best Little Whorehouse in Texas with Dolly Parton. That was the first thing I ever saw.
But there's nothing dirty going on. Nothing dirty going on.
Look at all these hot leather guys everywhere, too. It's amazing. But, yeah, look at, they restored that fresco over there. All of this. The ceiling is amazing. They kept the pipe organ in the wall. I'm curious if the organ comes up or not because that would be fantastic. This theater was known for someone playing an organ before each show. So I'm curious if that still happens. He was part of the history of this theater. So they've done a great job with this. This is amazing. The funny thing is it has that new car smell. It kind of feels like leather interior in here, doesn't it? Doesn't it smell like it?
Pineapple.